So this will be our final day that we're talking about marriage in this series. We'll be switching back to another topic next week. But this is the final week that we want to kind of address this most important relationship in your life. And we've been looking at it through kind of the paradigm of the ingredients of love that you need in this relationship, the triangle. So we've talked about you need passion, you need intimacy, you need commitment. These are the three essential ingredients of what makes up love. Now, our triangles don't all stay the same. It changes through the course of life and different trials and struggles and crises. You know, each side will kind of grow and shrink at different times, but you need to have all three of these. But invariably, every one of us that is in this predicament, this status, are asking some key questions. Whether you are in it or whether you are one of the group there that we started out with, single and seeking, you are thinking about these questions. And these are those questions. Will passion fade? Ask the husband of a 1-year-old. He's seriously wondering, has passion left this thing? It wasn't like it was before the baby. And she's going, you bet it isn't. Right? And she's got her own questions. But, life changes. Our bodies change. We go through different phases. Passion grows. It shrinks. It changes over time. And so there's that question of just kind of going, will the passion fade? And then the ultimate question of going, will love last? Right? That is the big question that all of our culture asks. We kind of frame it a little bit differently. Am I going to fall out of love? How many times people come and they justify certain actions by just going, well, I just don't love you anymore. And that means that I can move on, right? Because if that side doesn't exist, then we're just done. The feelings aren't there anymore. Everyone at their wedding doesn't believe that will happen. Everyone is going, oh, this love will last. But it is almost taboo to even suggest this question at that time, right? Because we got to psych ourselves up. Will love last? Will it make it all the way through all the different changes in our relationship? And then finally, the church is asking, will marriage last? Will that marriage last? And you come and you get pumped up because you hear God's truth that says, I don't care how miserable it is, you just gut it out, baby, right? You just hang in there. This is what God wants. He wants you to grit your teeth and just make it to the bitter end until we put you in a box. And that's what makes God happy. Do we have the commitment to survive all the challenges in life? All the mistakes, all the things that we can't control, all the boneheaded things that somebody's going to do. Do we have enough? These are questions, whether we ask them out loud or quietly within ourselves. Everyone that is married, I'm telling you, is asking these questions somewhere along this journey. And those that are entering it are asking these questions as well. They're going to look different at different stages in life. They're going to have different contexts, but we are all asking the same questions. So I want to talk about the title of this series, Meant to Be. This is not a mistake to use this phrase. This is an important phrase in our society and in our thinking. It shapes our thinking. When we use this language, when we use this type of a phrase, we mean something rather significant by it. Right? So when I saw my son Sean at 4 years old being able to catch a baseball thrown from 50 yards away or 30 yards away and could catch better than I did at age 15, I knew he was meant to be a baseball player, right? That's what we mean by that. We're like, hey, this is something good. This is something obvious, right? It is an undeniable reality. Look at how he can do this. Like, I even would ask him, like, he'd make adjustments. I'm like, How do you know how to do that? Like, I taught him nothing, gave him nothing. When I see my son Zach making those three-point shots, nothing but net, you go, nothing but, yeah, how about it? You go, that's meant to be, right? Now, if you watch me play basketball, you go, so you bowl, right? Like, you'd watch me and you go, there are so many things wrong with that, I don't even know where to start to describe what's wrong with that. You're tall, you're supposed to know what to do. I have no idea what I'm doing on a court. I still can't catch as well as my 4-year-old Sean. In fact, when they throw to me, I get a little bit scared, and now they mock me because I'm afraid to catch how hard they throw, right? So we use this language to kind of go, this is undeniable. This is supposed to come down the line, or it's kind of obvious on the other side, right? It's not supposed to happen. And when we bring this language into our relationships, we go, oh, this is meant to be. He's the one. She's it. Woo! It doesn't matter what anybody else says. Don't you get in the way of this. This is undeniable. This is an unqualified good. The music industry would collapse overnight if we took this idea off the table, right? Half of our songs are just about how, it was meant to be. I loved you before I even met you, right? It was going to happen, right? You didn't meet my checklist that Pastor Noel told me. It just was meant to be, and it's got to happen. Let's get married. Now, we get into that, and that's fine. Maybe we think that way. We get into that, and we can use this in a different way, right? You swap vows, and then one day you wake up, and one of them is going, it's meant to be. This other person catches my eye. Do you know how they make me feel? My heart flutters. I'm sorry that we passed vows, but you don't understand how amazing this is. That obviously was a mistake, and this is meant to be. And I can go and chase it. How dare you get in the way of any unqualified good like this? We use that language, don't they? How dare you? On the other side of this, we have it meaning as an unavoidable thing, right? Sometimes it just wasn't meant to be. We come to the end of a relationship and it's hit the skids and the wheels fall off and you get the lawyers and everything falls apart and you begin to say these things in your mind of just going, I guess I thought it was meant to be, but it wasn't. It was destined to fail. I had hoped, we rolled the dice, we hoped for the best, but it just wasn't meant to be, right? It looks like me playing basketball. So many levels of wrong there, right? And so when we use this language, we're really saying something rather important. Whether we're talking about it on the good side, that undeniable quality, or we go, this was an unavoidable quality. We really are saying one important thing. You know what it is? I had no choice in this. It was the cosmic forces of love, Cupid, whatever, my hormones, right? Like even in the good sense of going, man, when she, I hadn't even met you and I loved you, right? Like you just kind of set some things in motion and I went along for the ride. When we get to the end, I wish it wasn't so. But it was unavoidable. It wasn't meant to be. I didn't really have a choice. It went south. And what we mean by that then, it's not my fault. That's what that phrase gets us to. Even in the best of senses, it is, I'm not responsible. This is something that happened to me. We can point to some stuff, but you know what? It was either meant to be or it wasn't. And we're just kind of really finding out what happens. We're trying something and seeing if it might work out. That's what we mean. But it is by no accident that this is the title of this series. Because we have been pursuing not what we think is meant to be or not, but what does God say is meant to be? What does he say is, I'm not talking about your choices, but what I want out of this relationship. How did I design this? How are you pursuing it? We often get into a place where we go, I was just a passenger on the bus. So I want to go back to this concept we talked about last week, rupture and repair. This idea of going, every relationship has ruptures in it, right? They can be small ruptures, they can be big ruptures, they happen every day, just whatever, right? You just turn, you look the wrong way, or you make a big boneheaded mistake. And we would think, our instinct is to go, it's the big ruptures that blow apart a marriage. The little ones, they're unavoidable, but they're not so dangerous. And the video we watched went, that's actually not the case. It doesn't matter whether they're big or they're small. What decides the future, what decides whether a relationship will last, is the ability to repair. That even a big rupture, it's serious, and we're not trying to downplay that, but if you have the ability to repair, to work on this, the skills to do that, and I posted the whole video on this, if you have that, you can have a love that lasts. And so in that video, if you had watched it, there was one part in it when they were talking about forgiveness. They say one of the mistakes that we make is that we will cling to the rupture. We want the break to be healed. We want the relationships to last, but there can be this kind of self-destructive thing within our own heart and mind where we go, you know what, I want to hang on to it. I really don't want to forgive this. I don't want to forget this. And we do this technique, made by us, not by God, that they referred to as splitting. And what that simply does is it makes two groups of people in our life. We have the people that are all good, and they deserve all of our love and affection, and we can just kind of, with abandon, love them because we have designed this category that they are good, fundamentally good. But when somebody does too many ruptures, then we go to the other spectrum, other end of the spectrum, and they are all bad. They are to be spurned. They are not to be forgiven. They are to be set aside. You can't even imagine letting them close to you. And so we use this thing of going, there's these two big groups, all right or all wrong. And we avoid this messy middle of the reality of going, you know what, we're all pretty much just a combination of both of these. That we have to deal with this reality of going, you know what, even good people make boneheaded mistakes. That we get things wrong. That we get tired. We get distracted. We make bad choices. But we do this to protect ourselves because it's way safer to imagine that there's only good and there's only bad people. And I don't have to do the work of sorting that out. But what that means is that I have to hold on to the ruptures. The ones who've done me wrong, I've got to hold on to that. Because I can't believe that relationships, and fundamentally some people, are just never going to be safe enough. When you bring that thinking into your marriage, you are in trouble. It has nothing to do with the rupture. It's how you're responding to it. Now, we get this. We go, you're probably thinking right now of going, oh, it's all the big stuff. But once again, it's actually about a lot of little stuff. So let's watch another video here that talks about how we handle some of these ruptures. About that, the idea of cold fury. You know, we get the idea of fury if it's a big thing, somebody really did a doozy. But this idea of going, when we just kind of let these small things accumulate over time, that it just kind of starts to grow, this anger. It's a cold fury. It's not right out there on the surface. It's not something like what we talked about last week, where it was, in your anger, do not sin. Yeah, I know I'm angry, we're going to deal with it. How do you handle that moment? This is that latent stuff that just kind of lays down underneath, and it builds up over time. I like their idea of going, it is this type of cold fury that destroys love because it destroys admiration. Who knew that you love somebody only because you knew so little about them? The more you get to know them, the harder it gets. And maybe you retreat to this place where you just kind of go, all good, all bad, I'm going to hold on. Now, this is a non-Christian video. Imagine where we could be as a church, as a society, if God had only known this. If he had only warned us in advance that this type of stuff is really dangerous to relationships, we might have had different marriages, huh? Yeah. Oh, look at this. Do not nurse hatred in your heart for any of your relatives. Confront people directly so you will not be held liable for their wrongdoing. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against a person of your town, but love your neighbor as yourself. Kind of sounds like Jesus at the end. It's got to be New Testament stuff, right? Because God's just kind of mad at people in this Old Testament. This is kind of lovey-dovey, isn't it? Comes from the book of Leviticus, and you're like, yeah, whatever. It's because you've never read it. It's the worst book of the Bible. It's all about like sacrificing animals and rituals that we're like, we have no idea what's going on. And then right in the middle, it has this chapter that says, here's the stuff that's most important. Do not nurse hatred in your heart. Ooh. Isn't that what that video just said? Science is only like 3,000 years behind us. Woo! Right? We just kind of take that little bit and we hold on to it. Oh, I'm going to hold on to that. And it may not even be conscious. We just kind of, what they said, it's unresolved. But we collect it. We nurse it. What does God say to do? You are to confront people. I think he got this one wrong. I'm not okay with confronting people. It kind of makes me nervous. I'm speaking like you because I love it. I'm built for that. But I'm telling you, 99% of you are like, I'll go to the dentist before I have to confront somebody, right? I don't want to bring this up. We'll just pretend it didn't happen. How does that work out? What did the video say? All that stuff just kind of piles up. It stays underneath the surface. God told us right from the beginning, you got to bring stuff up. You got to speak truthfully, right, to one another. Don't bear a grudge. Well, I didn't want to bring it up because it makes me nervous, but I'm going to hold them accountable for what they did to me without telling them a single thing of what they did. Because if they don't know what they did wrong to me, that's twice their sin. Because they're supposed to know everything they did wrong to me without me mentioning it. Can't they tell by my cold fury? You know what we do? We bear a grudge, we nurse it, then we don't talk about it. Now we got a nice little prickly thing, and I am justified in treating you this way because you did the wrong thing. It's deadly. It's not the big stuff. The big stuff has its own danger. but it's all the small stuff that we let accumulate. God said it. Science says it. Careful. Oh, it just wasn't meant to be. Or maybe you just didn't deal with stuff as it came along. So I want to give you a very practical thing here. This is going to be your homework. We do this in my premarital counseling. It's called sharing withholds. It's an information exercise. So what you do is this would be great if you did it on a weekly basis. You go, maybe at the end of the week, going, hey, we need to share withholds. And you both know what this means. You go, oh, okay, you take just like a couple minutes and you write 3 things down, or a keyword or whatever. And then you sit down and one person goes first and you share 2 good things and 1 bad thing. Things that you haven't said, things that you've noticed that just kind of in the speed of life got kind of buried and, you didn't have the time to bring up. Not necessarily even that huge of a deal, but just kind of small stuff. And so you sit down, the first person goes first, and they go, all right, you did this. So if Eileen and I were doing this, she would have said, hey, Noel, I noticed that you did the dishes the other night, and I really appreciate that. And I would respond with, that's right, I'm awesome. Aren't you lucky? No, I would just say thank you. Thank you. Then she would share something negative. And she'd probably say something like this. Noel, the other day when you came home from work serving God, you walked in the house and immediately started grousing at everyone, and we don't appreciate that. And what would I have said? I'm sorry? No, because I may not be sorry. I simply say, thank you. That's it. This is an information exercise. That's all. Thank you. You do not go, oh, baby, here it comes. You get out the boxing gloves. Man, let's bring it here. No, you just say, thank you. Now, truth be told, she would not have said this. Not because it didn't happen, but because she let me know right then and there. So that was technically not a withheld thing. I already knew that truth. And then she had shared a third one. You took out the dog without being asked. Whatever. And I just said, thank you. And so then the other person would go. This is all you're doing. This happens really fast. 3 things. And now here's the brilliance of this. You ready? This is exactly what you need to do now. You don't talk about it. You leave each other alone. This isn't about starting a fight. This isn't about going, oh, I can't believe you said that. It's about sharing information. It's bringing this latent stuff, those little pebbles that were grown in the basket. Hey, let's bring those to the surface. So we may not even need to process those as much as just, oh, okay, yeah, I recognize that. Yeah, okay. We don't need to talk anymore about me being grousy because I get that. I shouldn't be doing that. I just needed a reminder. We also need to be sharing the good things too, right? We miss so many opportunities to speak the good things that we see one another do. If you need a half an hour to come back together and talk about something, fine. But it's not about starting a fight. Bring the stuff up. Have a process. Whether you use this or whatever, you've got to bring up the little things. Okay? That's your homework for this week. So that's on the negative side. How about on the positive side? Oh, well, before we get to that, let's all read this together. This is from last week. Ready? You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires. Bring it up. Don't nurse that. Keep it in your heart. Don't let a grudge get started. Bring it up. Dispel it. All right, so let's go to the good side of this. What's the easiest way to build up? That's like a defensive mechanism, right? Hey, this is how you kind of deal with the problems. What's the easiest way to build up your marriage? I've got exciting news for you. I want you to gamble. And that's great news because gambling is everywhere. Everywhere. You can't watch any TV show without them telling you how awesome it is to lose lots of piles of cash to make you feel really important. Men, I'm talking to you. because they are talking to you. Do you understand you are under attack? Women, do you see this in these ads? They are specifically going for men because your marriage is not exciting enough. Your love life is not exciting enough. Your kids are not exciting enough. Your kids or your career is not exciting enough. Here is where you're going to find really true happiness. Go bet it now. And then they have the sexy woman walk across. You get a little of this action going, right? Don't bet dumb. It's not this type that wants to rob you of your money. It's about making bids on things that really matter. So watch this one more video.
Imagine
GM wants us to believe that the true life is laying down a whole lot of cash that I'll never see again. When your spouse is right there asking you for a bid of something that really is going to matter. That's going to matter to make you a relationship master rather than the disaster where you can go, well, I guess it just wasn't meant to be. I don't know how we got here. It just didn't work out. And here we find one another where we're going, you know what? It was in all these small moments that we just kind of overlooked. She's making a bid for you, guys. Pay attention. He's making a bid for you. They're small. They're so easy to miss. And yet they mean so much when they are layered one upon another. Easy to do. If only God had known this. If only God had told us this, maybe our marriages would have been different. We could have gotten it right. That, you know what we should have done? We should serve one another. Oh yeah, he did, didn't he? We're not going to look at the passage, but the guys that want to, the teachers and the guys that want to go, well, us men, we're in charge. We're the head of the household. You submit to us. We make all the decisions. We are in charge. Fine, I will concede that. If we get to use Jesus' definition. You know what Jesus' definition of those in charge are? He told us in Matthew 20. He called the disciples together and said, you know the rulers of this world, how they lord it over their people. I get to make the decisions. And the officials that flaunt their authority over those under them. I'm more important. You don't know what's going on. I know what's best. But among you, it will be different. I like another translation. It says, not so for you. In God's kingdom, whoever wants to be the leader must first be the servant. Whoever wants to be first and most important must be the slave. As long as we get to use this definition, I'm fine with that. How about it? There's no place in God's kingdom where people get to push the other person down. Nowhere. That's dumb. Now, do you know what the next verse is right after this? It's a very famous verse. Jesus said, this is what you must do, but it doesn't work for me very well. He did. He said, no, he didn't. What did he say? For the Son of Man, the one who created all this stuff, came to serve, not to serve, and to give his life. This is who God is. In our marriage, we represent what God is, this place of just giving of ourselves. We look for the bids and we respond. We give of ourselves and respond. We see open invitation and we respond. So, yep, we've got questions, don't we? Questions that we too often answer with, it was meant to be. It wasn't meant to be. And yet what we have seen today, it wasn't the big things, the big scary things that we're all really afraid of. It was all the small daily things. The micro stuff that mattered in the end, both in hurting and how we process that, in giving bids to one another and saying, let's connect. Who knew the small things mattered so much? To say love will last. That's what God's been telling us for a long time, folks. I am under no illusion that we have marriages in every circumstance here. I can tell that with my eyes closed and the room dark and not knowing a single person here. We got marriages on the brink. We got marriages that are doing fine. We've got marriages that are covering a whole bunch of stuff up. We've got marriages wondering if it's just kind of like, is this it? And we're coasting until the end. And 100,000 other different stories here. I know that because I've been a pastor for over 20 years. I've been part of church for 40 years, and I have seen and heard every type of story you can imagine. But what we're learning today is it is not up to the cosmic forces. It was meant to be. Oh, it just didn't work out. It's up to us. That's what God meant it to be. However you got where you got. Let's not pretend that all of our decisions have been great. I don't know why you got married or under the circumstances, but within that relationship, he goes, I want you to learn to love like me, to forgive like me, to seek connection like I do. It's the small things that matter. Will you repair? Will you answer the bids that really matter in your life, guys? Or do you just want to be a disaster at the end of the line? Or someone that went, well, I grinned and bare it till I went to my very end. The choice is yours. It's in your hands. Let's pray. Father God, you have entrusted us with an incredible and indeed a sacred thing in walking with someone for the rest of our lives. Lord, I pray that you would give us the insight and the courage to see where we have let some of the small things, the easy things, really start to pile up. and begin to clean out our relationship, to open it up just by responding, step by step, day by day. May you give us your love for our spouse, that we can honor that commitment all our days, but by thriving, by being close, by being passionate, by just walking this crazy journey together, but knowing we're with each other and for each other. Help us, Father.